This bad boy is a Packard Bell desktop from the late 90s, early 2000s. It has a Windows Millennium Edition sticker on the side, which should give you a rough idea of when this specific one was made, and I want to make it into a bit of a sleeper. It's going to get some pretty insane hardware. It will require a touch of modifications, and if I'm being honest, the RTX 4090, specifically the Founders Edition card I'm going to be using here, well, the power connector, or more specifically the power cable, really can't be bent at all, and so it might not quite all fit inside the case with the side panel on. So we might need to leave the side panel off for doing, the actual using the PC bit, which does somewhat defeat the purpose of being a sleeper, but also it's probably necessary for cooling as well, and so, yeah, let's give it a go anyway. I'm gonna start us off by getting our motherboard ready to go. This case is actually pretty small by modern standards, and while I think it can technically support an M-ATX motherboard, and that's probably what came with it originally, I can't find an M-ATX motherboard with a modern socket, LGA 1700 or AM5, especially in the press pull. So this ITX board from MSI, the B760i Edge Wi-Fi, is the only one that I could get my hands on, and is also a pretty decent fit. It gives us some more room to play with inside the case anyway, and has plenty of connectivity for everything we want to do. Now I'm using an i5 13600K for this, primarily because I can't fit a water cooler in this. There's basically no way that, even with cutting big holes, whatnot, to keep it a proper sleeper, that I can fit a 240mm rad at least to get anything higher end. So I'm using an air cooler for this, and actually a low profile one at that, and so I'm going to be using the i5. To install it, it's pretty simple. You lift up the retention arm and open the sort of socket cover. You then gently place the CPU with, in this case, the text readable, facing you. You place the top back down, you put the arm back down, the plastic cover should pop off, and you hook the arm with quite a bit of strength under the little locking tab, and you're good to go. RAM is also ridiculously easy. You line up the notch with the notch in the slots, and then you basically just slide it into the groove and push it down on both ends evenly until you hear 2 clicks, one for either side, and of course repeat that rather with the other stick as well. And hey presto, you've installed your RAM. The SSD is a bit more complicated on this one. This board does have 2 M.2 slots, one on the front under this big heatsink, and one on the back that doesn't have a heatsink, but in this case we're going to use the heatsink because it's kind of the primary slot anyway, and, well, we may as well. I'm not using 2 drives in this. I certainly could, but we don't really have the need to, since SSDs have become insanely large to the point where they're also ridiculously cheap, and so why not? This board does need a couple of these standoffs, or a little standoff and a little screw, which is a bit annoying. ASUS has a toolless mounting mechanism that comes pre-installed on the boards, which is quite nice. But I suppose this will do. You just take these tiny little really annoying standoffs and screw them into the standoff that's already in the board for some reason. And then once that is in and nice and tight, you take your drive, you line up the notch in the right orientation, slide it in, push it down, and then put the tiny little screw in. And then you take your heatsink, which has a little protective film on it, you peel the remove bit of film off, have it stick to your finger, and then you just plop it back down in the right location, and now you have a nice heat-sinked M.2 SSD, once you do the screws down anyway. The last thing we'll need to do is actually put our CPU cooler on. The reason for this is this case doesn't have a cutout for your CPU mounting hardware, and actually the way that this CPU cooler mounts anyway, we mostly just want to stick the backplate, which I've stuck the studs through, and the little spacer or little washers that also hold them in place, which is quite nice. And we're going to thread that or file that through the board, and then attach the little, in this case, LGA 1700 mounting hardware, these little blue standoffs or spacers that will then space our mounting brackets off, and then the cooler mounts onto those. It's a bit of a convoluted system, and generally speaking, I prefer the style that has you mount the cooler directly through all 4 holes rather than, in this case, just 2, but this works well enough, so we'll go with it. So I've just realized that it is necessary to orient this in the correct direction. The nice thing about Intel's socket layout is that it is a square mounting bracket, and so you can normally rotate it 90 or 180 or 270 degrees, whichever you want, to orient the cooler how you want to. Whereas with AMD, because it's a rectangle, you often find that most coolers end up mounting sort of vertically, as in blowing either onto your graphics card or up from your graphics card rather than front to back or horizontally, which can be a little bit annoying. Now, the most important part of installing a new CPU cooler is to peel off that warning, peel off before use sticker. You just need to remember to peel the thing off. So I've applied the included Thermalright thermal paste because they only provide you enough to install one CPU cooler, or well, one time anyway, and otherwise it's just going to go off. It's perfectly fine. And in this case, the cooler has a bit of an interesting mounting method. It has two through holes through the heat sinks, so as you place it down, as long as you line it up correctly, you should then be able to take your screwdriver and go through the heatsink and then screw it down onto the studs that come off of the little mounting brackets. It's a bit of a complicated process. This is what I mean about I prefer to have ones that just screw on directly, but we'll try and make it work. We will of course need to attach the fan, which in this case has an addressable RGB header, so we'll click that one on, and we'll also need to attach the 4-pin PWM fan header to the first fan header, which is the CPU fan header. It does come with a bit of an interesting mounting solution. It does look like it comes with an extra fan's worth of mounts, which is surprising because this is a low profile CPU cooler. I would be quite impressed if you can get an extra fan worth of a fan on this, but also this style of wire hanger is never my personal favorite. It does work, which is good, but it's first of all not the most secure mounting method, and second of all it's quite fiddly, but it appears to be done, so we're all good. Right, so what we have here is a pretty old case with a pretty standard old case layout. The power supply goes up the top, the motherboard goes in the middle, any graphics or PCI devices, or PCI devices probably, go in the bottom, and we do have two slightly color mismatched drive bay covers and a floppy disk drive. Now, the modification that I'm going to do, I'm not sure if it's 100% necessary, but since the power supply, the 1000-watt power supply we need for the 4090 is so long, I'm going to remove this 5¼ drive bay, which does mean we're going to remove the floppy drive, but I'm hoping to be able to take this fascia piece off and then sort of stick it there so that it still looks like it's there, even if it's not necessarily working. With that said, I do need to remove the front panel, which is mostly just a pull the front off type of deal, which comes off relatively easily, as does most of the those front covers. We'll stick that down the side. I want to retain everything working as normal, so the front USB, I think 1 ports? Yeah, USB 1 ports, and the button, the power switch, whatnot, those will all stay. So let me get these rivets drilled out and then we'll see how we go. Let me remove the drive, the floppy drive first. The reason I'm somewhat haphazardly wobbling it around is because the rivets are spinning on the other side, and so if they're spinning, that means that they're not actually being drilled, which is a bit of a problem. And there we have it. Now I'm gonna go get a dustpan and brush for all of the metal shavings before I accidentally short circuit a 4090, and then I have to make a very awkward call to NVIDIA. Right, let's get building. I'm gonna start with, I think, the motherboard, and then I'll put the power supply in, and then the graphics card. And then we'll see if we can get the front fascia off of this floppy disk drive. But we'll start with the motherboard, and this should be relatively simple because it already has its IO shield pre-installed, very much unlike the Times, and we basically just need to stick 4 screws in. So let's go. I am doing this in possibly the most awkward angle I could find, all for your viewing pleasure. Aha, I have and screw in, perfect. And we're done. No. Why am I doing this in the worst way possible? I give up. You don't get to see this. It's too difficult doing it the other way. Right, okay, so next thing is probably the power supply, which is obviously going to go fan down because there is no ventilation in the top, and also because the shape of this rather old school power supply cutout means that where the power connector is located, if it went in upside down with fan up, the power connector probably wouldn't actually clear the round section, so it will go in face down, which is fine, and hopefully it still fits and clears everything. Oh no, is the power switch not? In their infinite wisdom, they put this tiny little tab on the back, and that is stopping me from installing the power supply, so I'm just gonna go and cut it off. Right, so that is the motherboard and power supply in. I'm going to do the sensible thing and connect up all of the cables that I need to, things like the front panel headers, the front USB 2 header, and the 8-pin power connector, the 24-pin power connector, before we think about putting the graphics card in, so that everything is routed. For example, the USB header I think is going to have to go under the graphics card. I could be wrong actually, it might be able to go over, but we'll see if I can make it go under because that will look better, and then we'll go from there. Right, so the card does fit, and if I move the 24-pin, both fans do spin, but the catch is, one, I still haven't put these front panel power connectors in, and two, when I do use the NVIDIA 16-pin adapter to the 4-pin adapters, the problem is, if this was a normal 8-pin connector, this would fit. I could make this bend right at the connector and it would fit fine. But because it's the infamous 16-pin, it doesn't fit. You cannot bend this connector that hard, and so it is going to have a bit of a stick out, which is quite unfortunate, but we'll do what we can. We'll see how it looks once it's actually running and playing some games anyway. Right, it's the moment of truth. Will it actually boot up with the original power switch? And the answer is yes. We even have the power on LED. That's great. Right, let's get into some games, shall we? So I thought I would start us off with a bit of Cyberpunk 2077. This is an obviously very intensive game, but also it's a rather fun game to play, and it's a sort of game that I can imagine the average 4090 owner is going to be enjoying. So let me just hack the matrix real quick, and then I'll get back to you. Where's BD? There's only one BD down here. Okay, so 7A, BD, no. Oh, there's a 7, so it's 7A, BD, 1C, so 7A, BD, 1C, 7A. There we go. Get a bit complicated sometimes. Right, let me, come on, let me explode that with my my hacks. Let me burn his synapses, and I'll short circuit him too. Apparently I accessed the cameras. Didn't expect that. Okay, I'll go Synapse Burnout on that too then. I didn't finish that, so let me short circuit that one. And Synapse Burnout you. Short circuit as well. Oh, I didn't get him. Okay, let me just punch. Okay. And punch you. Come on. There we go. Better. Good, huh? Right. Let's get started. I might have alerted them a little bit, but that's fine. The recoil on this gun is a little difficult to control on this mouse. I used the sniper for quite a while, but I've switched since doing the final missions to this assault rifle, a smart gun that talks to me, and a basically like a shotgun. It's kind of a rifle, it's kind of a shotgun, but those work the best for those missions. I might have to swap back to a sniper at some point, but I do quite like this combo. So let's jump into something a little bit more competitive and something that's going to rip through about 500 to 1000 FPS. That would be CSGO, and even while playing with bots, even in the most intensive part of the bot match, which is when all of the bots are around you, we're still getting 500 FPS, and on a good sort of, you know, no bots to be seen part of the level, we're up near 1000, which is just ridiculous. Yeah, up at B, we're at 1041 FPS. Not bad. Now, speaking of me not being good with snipers, let's try and be good with a sniper. Oh, come on, teammate. I actually might have had that lined up. Probably not, but maybe. There's one. Oh, no. No, Andrew, he's standing still. Okay, and now he's dead. Now I need to reload. Amazing. Okay, there's one. There's only one more left. Where is he? Oh, teammate! I would blame the bots, but we both know that it's me that's the problem. And yeah, we're still getting 1000 FPS. I'm physically dodging it. Oh, come on. Give me the pixel. No. Yes. Come on. No, don't reload now. I mean, I know you need to. There's no bullets in the gun, but come out wherever you are. There we go. So for the final game that we're going to show today, I thought it'd be a little bit different and go with Dirt 5. This is on ultra high preset, and we're running at a locked 165 FPS because VSync is on, and it looks beautiful. It looks great. Handling a car, like video game car, on a keyboard is never the best thing. There are people who are incredibly talented at doing that for sure. I'm not one of them. I struggle enough with actual racing wheels, so yeah, this is interesting. I'm just gonna play this like bumper cars, I think. Who needs brakes when you have other people's cars? Coming through. No, a bit faster. That's not the handbrake? Okay, cool. We're still at a nice locked 165 FPS, and I'm spinning out. I like the rays of light when you get caught in the sun, sort of lens flare. Like that, it's quite nice. I seem to be pulling out quite a lead. It's probably because the bots are all on real easy, but and across the line. Not bad. And a nice, pretty much locked 165 FPS at 1440p on ultra quality. Not bad at all. With that said, I think I'm gonna leave it there. If you want to see more videos from me, including more stupid projects like this, then feel free to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notification icon. You can also check out plenty of other videos on the end cards, including more sort of proper build guides or more tech reviews, monitors, things like that, and the projects that I do as well. Otherwise, if you want to check out some of the parts in this, I'll leave some links in the description. If you want to support the channel, you can do so through YouTube, Patreon, pick up a hoodie or t-shirt like this one, or a load of the designs I made myself, or there's a load of other links in the description if you want to check them out. Otherwise, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, we'll see you on the next video.